Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbin is Racing podcast with Spider and Large, as you can see right behind me, if you're lucky enough to be watching us on YouTube or perhaps Rumble. And this episode is brought to you by Body Armor Flash IV. Body Armor Flash IV is packed with electrolytes and provides faster and longer-lasting hydration with no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or dyes, with great-tasting flavors like strawberry kiwi, tropical punch. I'll tell you what, I just saw this one, the cucumber lime. Sign me up. It gives your body the rehydration it needs to recover. Spider and I tore it up at the Daytona 500. The day after the Daytona 500, we were not feeling that great about ourselves physically and maybe even spiritually. So the first thing that we reached for was this, the orange IV, and it had cured what ailed us. I'm not saying that it's going to cure what everyone, but what we needed, we got inside this bottle, and I think you guys can feel better with it too. So go get yours at a local 7-Eleven or on Amazon today, and that's Body Armor Flash IV. I love the stuff, and thank you for your continued support, Body Armor. With that, let's get to the goddamn podcast. How's everybody doing?
Great.
We have a full boat here. Moonhead is with us remotely. Spider and Quigs are in Chicago in the Rubbin is Racing studio with multiple fire suits that all fit Spider like a glove. And I am sitting here in the radio room inside the New York office. So we're coming to you from three different things, and it's happening absolutely seamlessly. Spider, I was going to start with headlines and rumors. Not a ton as far as headlines go. I know that we were talking about Corey LaJoie a lot. We were talking about Corey. He was looking for sponsorship for his car. He wanted to stay in the Cup Series. When he had mentioned he didn't want to go down to Truck Series and race in front of 12 people, gave him a little bit of shit for that. But he did pretty well in Daytona 500, and he got the Air Med Care Network, America's largest air ambulance membership network, joined with Rick Ware for this weekend's NASCAR race in Atlanta Motor Speedway. The company will serve as the primary partner for driver Corey LaJoie and the number 01 team in the Ambetter Health 400. So congratulations to Corey for his performance at the Daytona 500, and congratulations for this guy who is grinding it out and is getting sponsorship, which we know is a lot easier said than done within the NASCAR ranks. I'm happy for Corey. You said you had heard a couple of rumors, Spider. Did you want to get some rumors out of here, or do you want me to hold off with them?
No, let's get right into it.
Let's go.
Had a lot of good conversations in Daytona this week. Met some good friends, some drivers, some colleagues, etc. And first, I guess we'll start with the iRacing console game. I know right now it's scheduled to be released sometime in fall. I was told from a reliable source that we can expect that game to launch in September, which I'm looking forward to. I love iRacing, as you guys know. Anyone who's followed this show knows I'm passionate about that. And one thing I think that they can do to keep growing the game and the sport simultaneously is to make it more accessible. And what better way to do it with a console game? So I'm hearing that game will be dropping September of this year, and I can't wait for that to happen. I also heard that despite what Adam Stern is saying about Dodge and Ram potentially joining the Truck Series, the leader for the new manufacturer to join NASCAR is neither of them. In fact, it's Honda. That came from, again, another reliable source who's given me information in the past. I'm not super confident on that, especially given the fact that Adam Stern is saying otherwise, but something definitely to watch out for. And then third and final scoop I got for you is that given the drama that's going on at Trackhouse with Pitbull's departure and their new investment coming in, it sounds like Daniel Suarez has his work cut out for him if he's going to be returning to Trackhouse next year. They've got Conor Zilisch waiting in the wings, and I was told from a driver that he expects Daniel Suarez to be without that 99 ride next year. And if he is going to be, it's going to require a couple wins.
Do you think there's anything that would realistically keep him there? Like, realistically, like,
Two wins.
Let's say he gets 2 wins.
I don't know.
Do they say, oh, we got 2 wins, we can't get rid of him?
I think it depends on the quality of win. If you look back to last year at this very race, we saw Daniel Suarez win in a 3-wide photo finish at Atlanta. And that seemingly didn't quiet the concerns about his security or his, position within the team. So I don't know, to be honest. I tend to lean that he's got his work cut out for him. He's going to need a really, really big season. I don't know, explicitly what that looks like, but I think there's probably going to be some silly season drama starting
I think
with
so,
Daniel Suarez, and I think unfortunately, because I like
I
Daniel
just don't.
Suarez.
I think no matter how good he races, I think he's still gone.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that too. Conor Zilisch has talked about, like, LeBron coming out of high school. So, I don't know. If I had to rank all three of those, I would say probably Suarez I feel the most confident on. The iRacing console game would probably be second, and then the Honda inclusion would be third. And again, I'm skeptical of that just because other trusted beat reporters, i.e. Adam Stern, are reporting otherwise by saying Ram and Dodge could potentially join the truck series. However, who's to say Honda Steve Phelps said NASCAR could potentially welcome a fourth and fifth manufacturer. So if we could theoretically get two, and
I don't need five.
Why not?
I don't know.
I think the more
I'm
the
fine
merrier.
with three.
More the
I
merrier.
don't need five.
For me, and I think Honda would be great, and I also think that Team Trackhouse would probably be a great springboard, as we said last episode. Should a new manufacturer want to come in and align with a team, I would look no further than Team Trackhouse and what Justin Marks is building. But those were the three main scoops I had from Daytona this week, and I guess it's still early in the season, so we'll see how things shake out.
So when we do these Spidey scoops, obviously it's because I constantly ask, because he's got his ear to the ground. And we had asked in our first episode last week, who's got the hottest seat for the 2025 season? Again, we all like Daniel. By the way, I was at dinner in Daytona when Trackhouse was having their meal at the same place, this restaurant called Blue Flame, which was awful. And Daniel came over to the table out of nowhere. Hello, like, he's just such a nice guy. I stood up and kind of gave him those half hugs that I give. Sometimes I go full hug. Daniel Suarez is a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
That guy is built like a fucking action figure. I had mentioned it to somebody like Conor Zilisch the Trackhouse girls, two of the girls from Trackhouse who invited us up in the box and stuff. They're like, yeah, this guy, all he does is work out and whatnot. His wife is stunning, and the guy's built like brick shithouse. So I think he could be one of the hottest Mexican-American models in the history of Mexican-American modeling. But Quigs, you said that there's not much Daniel could do to make that seat a little less hot, even winning 2 races. What happens about the other side? What happens if Conor Zilisch shits the bed? Like, if that white-hot prospect who had just turned 18 or is about to turn 19, I guess, in July, so he didn't just turn 18. What happens if he shits the bed? Then, is that the factor that we're not looking at?
Maybe it delays stuff, but I think with that situation, he's young, he's got so much potential, and even if Suarez has a good season, you kind of know what Suarez is, and I think that seat will be Zilich's, and Suarez is the guy to go, and at best he could postpone it maybe a year, but I think those decisions are made, and that they're taking the gamble on Zilisch because I think they don't really think it's a gamble, and that he's going to be really good and better than Suarez will ever be for that team, and I think they're going to do it regardless of how Suarez performs.
We met Conor while we were down in Daytona, and I couldn't have been more impressed with that young man. He's wise beyond his years, I guess I should say. We'd gone over to the hauler, who was extremely gracious, coming out and meeting our guests and whatnot, and so much so that I, because I'm an ex-Wall Street guy, as I like to mention every fucking episode, I'd love to buy futures in this kid's career. Not just for the Cup Series championship. I mean, like, if I could short Bronny James and buy Conor Zilisch, put up this spread, I would do that. So anybody who's an old buddy of mine from Wall Street, get on it. Find me some way to trade futures because I am a buyer of Conor Zilisch. That being said, I think that that Daniel, should find a ride somewhere if this was to come to fruition, because he's a hell of a wheelman as well. Moonhead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Spider.
I think you're spot on, Large. Wise beyond his years is a great way to describe Conor Zilisch. Extremely well spoken. It's hard to, I had to remind myself that he's only 18 years old, and I just think it's interesting. You said you wanted to put some, investment in on Conor Zilisch. I actually did. I took him 7-1 to win the Xfinity Championship this year. I looked on DraftKings shortly after this race and this weekend ended. He's now down to 5.5 to 1. So Seems like a lot of people feel the same way, and he's going to be an exciting storyline to watch this year in the Xfinity level.
What do you think of Conor
and in his
Zilisch?
Cup starts, for that matter. I guess we got Circuit of the Americas, his Cup Series debut, coming up here in just a couple weeks. So,
and the sponsors love him. Like, we already got the Red Bull attached to the Red Bull. Go out and smoke the weed. He's got Red Bull attached to his car for at least COTA. And SVG's got it for a bunch of races. So, he's good with sponsors and the whole deal. So the kid might be the whole package. Geez, I hope he doesn't get caught, killing a hooker in a motel room, which I don't think he will. He seems a little more, he's not, whatever. Moonhead, give us your unbiased opinion on Conor Zilisch and whether or not he's the future of the sport, and then where you think that Daniel ranks as somebody who'd be able to hop in another ride, or if he's safe at Trackhouse.
I mean, I think the writing's on the wall with Daniel, and I don't think it's necessarily because he's bad or underperforming. I think there's just only so many spots, and Trackhouse seems pretty committed to SVG and Conor, and I don't see him getting rid of Ross anytime soon. So as much as I hate that Suarez is definitely going to be out of a ride, I think he's going to be out of a ride sooner than later. I believe in Zilisch. I think he's going to be great, but racing's weird. We've seen a lot of people have a lot of hype and then get to Cup and fall flat. I don't think he'll do that, just with the wide range of success he's had across the board so far. But you never know. So maybe they keep him in Xfinity a little bit longer too than we expect, and maybe that buys Suarez some time and then he can land on his feet somewhere. But I guess we'll just have to see. If Zilisch has a monster year in Xfinity, I think it's going to be hard really for Suarez to keep his ride at Trackhouse.
But what happens if, and again, I'm just trying to throw wrinkles in, what happens if Ross shits the bed? Like, Daniel arguably had a better regular season than Ross last year, obviously. What happens if he shits the bed and doesn't have a great season this year, and Daniel does outperform, and Conor kind of, does what we think he's going to do? And it buys Daniel another year, and then Ross, like, there's so many things. That's why it's called the silly season. There's so much silly shit to talk about. And by the way, we're talking about it, and it's fucking February. So, it is what it is, but I think it's extremely interesting, so we'll keep an eye on it as the season progresses. You had mentioned Adam Stern. Adam Stern, RCR Racing has plans to reassert itself as a home team for NASCAR's core blue-collar franchise. So RCR wants to be the blue-collar franchise in NASCAR under new president Mike Verlander. This is the quote: "Our team is what it is. There are teams with slicker taglines and flashier shoe games, but that's not who we are." So the flashier shoe games is a shot across 2311's bow, right? Yep. Like, that's 100%. The slicker taglines, is that Trackhouse? I mean, who's that, or is it all aimed towards 2311?
I think last year a lot of people made fun of Stewart Haas Racing for their tagline, which
what was that?
I'm neglecting to remember off the top, but it was something like, I don't know, it was something rather cocky for a relatively humble team. I have mixed opinions on this to start. I think Mike Verlander is a great addition. I love the fact that he's the new president over at RCR. It seems like there's been a lot of shakeup over there in the last couple of years, but he's always been very good to Barstool, and I like what he's done with Kyle Busch and everything like that. So to see him get promoted is definitely a win over there. That being said, I don't know if I necessarily agree with this kind of like mantra for RCR. Large, we were down there this weekend at Daytona asking Austin Dillon about, Childress wineries and which type of wine he prefers, whether it be red or white. To me, that's a level above like the average blue collar, kind of guy. To me, blue collar screams like Ross Chastain, who was a watermelon farmer with a dream that now gets to race on the highest level on Sundays. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm encouraged by the executive shakeup and Mike Verlander being the new president, but I don't necessarily know if this tagline or even quote was necessary.
Blue collar is kind of like a thing that you don't like attempt to do.
Yeah,
I feel it's kind of a natural just way about yourself. You don't have to make it a strategy.
Everyone who calls himself blue collar, I feel like, is typically not blue collar.
Yeah,
that's like my barometer.
Yeah.
If other people call you blue collar, I feel like you truly are that.
That's fine.
But that's something you can't really give to yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I set the bar high with blue collar. My dad Never wore underwear until he came over here by boat when he was 19. He was born on an island off the coast of Ireland. Was a deep-sea fisherman in the 5th grade when his dad died. Dropped out of whatever grammar school. He was getting apples for Christmas, that type of shit. Came over here, became a structural steel worker, iron worker, the guys who crawl around 80 stories up on fucking I-beams. My dad's hands look like road maps. I've got the softest hands you've ever seen. So I reserve blue collar for thick-wristed, hard-working guys. I'm not sure if RCR means that to me. And that's not a dig, because I am the whitest linen fucking woman's collar that you've ever seen. So I'm not throwing a dig here. This is not me being hypocritical. But when I think blue collar, I don't know if I think maybe like Josh Berry and Woodbrook, like that type of stuff seems more blue collar for me. I don't know if you can just, like to Spider's point, you don't grab that moniker. Right? You don't just grab that moniker. I think it's something that the fans give you. When we were talking about Kevin Harvick leaving the Cup Series to retire, we said, who can you pick up as like a Kevin Harvick-y type guy? I don't think anyone had mentioned AD or Kyle Busch for that matter, right? But basically because Kyle Busch we thought might have to do the retirement thing within a couple of years, so it didn't make any sense. So, by the way, we have William Byron here in New York City later on today. I'm going to ask William Byron if they're the blue-collar guys and the track houses, maybe the flashy slogan guys, I don't know if they are, flashy sneaker guys are 2311, what's Hendrick? Hendrick's not fucking blue-collar by any stretch of imagination. I wonder what Byron would say. Who's the blue-collar team for real? Who's the blue-collar driver in your perspective? Anybody. Who's their blue-collar guy other than, Austin? And like an Austin Dillon, I am going to go and have a fucking chewy Cabernet and his signature sandwich at the RCR Vineyards at some point. And when I do, I'm going to keep my fucking pinky out. I've never done that with my dad. So who's the blue-collar guy for you guys? Like, what's the right answer?
I already tipped my answer, and I think it's Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
I think his background and the way he made it into the highest level of racing kind of solidifies him as P1 blue-collar guy for me. And that's not to say you can't still do exciting, trailblazing things like we see so much of over at Trackhouse. But I don't know. I think he's a guy that's just had that naturally. And, to me, he would be P1. But I'll defer to Quigs and Moonhead. Is there anyone I'm overlooking here?
I mean, mine would have been Ross. But there's also an aspect of, like, anyone in the Cup Series isn't really blue-collar anymore. It's, like, more the guys that are running like 3 truck races a year, and when they get in a wreck, it's like destroying them financially,
right.
And then they're going to like put shingles on roofs the next Monday. Like, those are the real blue collar guys. Like, once anyone in the Cup Series they're doing fine and making a ton of money, but like Ross would be my answer. Like,
I would say to me, anyone who's a second generation driver, unfortunately, is probably disqualified from the tagline of being a blue collar guy, just because racing is such a sport dictated by, resources, money, parental support and success and stuff like that. Travis, who do you got?
I think for me, it would kind of be a package deal going for like the blue collar team thing. I think RFK having Preece and then a guy like Buescher, even though Buescher kind of comes from a racing family, I don't think he didn't have huge money growing up, and just like seeing the guy, he's just kind of a big like Texan. He doesn't really seem like a race car driver, or like he's super flashy. And then everybody knows Preece's story being kind of a hard-nosed racer. So those two would probably be the only other two I could think of in Cup besides Ross.
And then even outside of Cup, you got guys like Butterbean. There's so many people out there who, I don't know, kind of personify that blue-collar personification better than RCR. So it happens. So DMs, we'd gotten a bunch of DMs this week, but one of the ones that really stood out was a bunch of people hit me with this, but Carson Gray was the gentleman who hit me with it first. Did you guys see that footage about Cole Custer spotter? That was downright fucking silly. If you guys hadn't seen it, Cole Custer spotter had just switched cars. And so towards the end of the race at Daytona, he had mistakenly followed William Byron's car across the finish line while Cole was caught up in a wreck. So as you're watching Cole sort of, not fight for his life or anything like that, but wreck his car, the spotter's like, you're clear, all this kind of stuff. And then he's like, "Oh, I fucked up, Cole. I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay." Like the whole deal. Like we had joked around with Stephen Parsons. Remember that time when Justin Haley had just swapped with LaJoy, and so we were busting his chops because Stefan's a good friend of the show. And this was the worst thing I've ever seen from a spotter. Even more so than the guy who alluded to Kyle Larson being a pussy when it came to Denny Hamlin last season. I didn't agree with that either. Just shut the fuck up. But this was, I guess, inexcusable. I don't want to cancel the guy or get him fired by any stretch of the imagination. But this guy's going to get at least his balls busted for the foreseeable future. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can overlay that over this podcast, but it was a sight to behold.
It was certainly something. This would probably be one of two worst spotter incidences I've seen. The other being Austin Dillon's spotter telling him to wreck those two cars on a recorded line. But to me,
and then saying you didn't say it.
Right. I'm somewhere in the middle. I hate to keep riding the fence here with all my takes this week, but at the end of the day, I saw Freddie Kraft's tweet, and he basically defended the spotter, saying, I don't think the general public or majority of these race fans understand how hard it is to keep eyes on the proper car while they're wrecking, a mile from where you're watching atop the, World Center of Racing signage at Daytona. And that, to me, kind of excuses it a little bit. But the spotter genuinely thought they won the Daytona 500 and then was
so
quickly
great.
humbled thereafter.
It took him a long time to realize, too.
Yeah.
It was not like the smoke was there and then he's like, oh, shit, my bad. It was like he was sending him home.
Yeah.
The only thing that saves him, I did see the full clip. He was spotting the right car up until the wreck. So he at least had that going for him, because it would have been 10 times worse if he'd have spotted the wrong car before the wreck.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to be on I get it, like it's hard to do, but it's quite literally like the job is like find the car that's yours and tell them where to go.
Yeah,
And
it reminded
he didn't
me
do it
of when you're at a baseball game and they put a ball under one of three hats and then juggle them around, and you have to try to pinpoint which one is holding the ball underneath. But I think it's just unfortunate and kind of, I don't know, it's tough for that guy. I'm sure he's pretty good at his job, but he just had a really bad moment there. So unfortunately, as you said, Large, he'll probably get clowned for a couple weeks until someone else's spotter says something dumb.
But we were up there too, so we're lucky enough to be up there with Netflix Nick and Freddie and whatnot. And they're truly in a crow's nest. It's one of the parts of NASCAR that technology really hasn't caught up to what spotters do. They should be able to see something then more than, particularly at a super speedway. They have one spotter at a super speedway, which they can see the whole vantage point from way up high. I mean, they stand next to the snipers that were there for Trump. It was just snipers and Freddie. You know what I mean? And that's it's wild to think about that. These races are won and lost with just whether or not these guys can pick out who their car is. And I'm being hypocritical because I lose cars all the time from the luxury suites and stuff like that as they're coming by right in front of me. So again, I hope this guy, and Spider is actually the voice of reason here. It's probably a very difficult thing to do, and it happens more often than not. But that situation right there was utterly ludicrous, and I loved watching it. And I hope he does get a little bit pantsed, but not in too much trouble, if that makes any kind of sense. Did you watch the race, Quigs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How are the commercials? Everyone's complaining about the commercials. I hear a couple of people are complaining about maybe Boyer yelling over Mike Joy a couple of times. Some people like it, some people don't. Everyone's kind of critical of the broadcast. How are the commercials? It seems like
people are complaining about them this year.
Yeah, so there were.
I think they almost cut it in half.
66% of the commercials went on the in-screen type thing. Where they go side by side, picture in picture, but. And it seemed better to do it that way. So I was wondering if you'd seen it from your perspective. It wasn't something that affected you.
No, I would say it was an improvement this year.
Okay.
A lot more side by sides, which are still commercials and you lose the audio, but at least you're seeing what's going on. It does feel like they go to commercials at times where I'm like, things are getting good and something might happen here, but. No, I had no real issues with the broadcast this this time. I thought it was fine. My biggest issue was the rain, but that was just is what it is.
God hates NASCAR in Daytona. You know, they can't move it, obviously, because it's, you know, beginning of the season, crown jewel, and, you know, NASCAR Super Bowl and all that kind of bullshit, so they can't move it. But it is such a coin toss, and a coin toss that we've lost the past couple of years, which is unfortunate because Spider and I were lucky enough to have Jersey Jerry and Rico Bosco down at the race this year with us. We had Kevin and Fights last year. They didn't get to see a single lap. And then we have Rico and Jerry there, and they had a fantastic time. We're going to go through what happened to us this weekend with those guys and beyond, but they had a fantastic time, but it sort of soured it a little bit. We were there for the whole time. They had to catch flights, so they couldn't stay for the whole race, you know, that whole thing. But it was unfortunate. But I have to tell you, seeing how this race was graded by guys like Gluck, guys like Breakard, why don't we give him a shout-out, Spidey? We
Absolutely.
met that dude from Breakard. You follow him as well, right?
Yeah, his name's Matt. Great guy and very insightful voice on NASCAR media. He does some great YouTube videos with news storylines weekly, as well as, you know, rumors and recaps and stuff like that. So been watching him a lot on YouTube. I would say I don't really consume a whole lot of NASCAR media, but which is probably stupid. But he is at the top of my list in terms of guys that I follow and watch. So it was great to actually meet him in real life. I think he's going to come to the Chicago street race, so maybe we can get him in studio here later on in the season.
Yeah, and I think I follow him just on TikTok. So it's Breakard. It's just one gentleman, devilishly handsome, and he gets up there and he does, you know, he has reactions to a lot of the headlines that come pouring across the tape. And so give him a follow if you guys want to. But what was the point that I was making before that, before I went on this wild tangent?
You're talking about like Jersey Jerry and Rico.
Yeah, so
it
was a shame because we had them there, and we, you know, we'd love to give them the whole experience, but unfortunately we couldn't. And Daytona, we went into the night, late at night, me and Spider, and we were juiced up, so we were the last people off the track at Daytona, which was an eerie feeling. To be the last people in Daytona International Speedway just hanging out on the infield. Where the fuck was the security? You know, we all had a couple in us and stuff like that. We had an absolute ball, and I can never come back from a race and judge it objectively because we have so much fun at the track. I don't even know how good of a race it was. So, Quigs, to watching it on TV, how do you rate it on this scale that everyone seems to be using, 1 to 100, as a viewer from home?
I really enjoyed it. I thought there was a good amount of aggression, some good green flag runs. I guess not enough where there weren't any huge like pit cycle things where like it seemed like the flags kind of avoided that. But if I had to give it a rating, I'd be like an 85. I thought it was a really fun race.
Moon, I'm thinking that you're going to be lower, no? Or am I wrong?
I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's kind of getting an unfair rap on social media. I thought it had a little bit of everything. I really appreciated the debris cautions to break up the fuel saving, and I hope that they continue to do that as long as fuel saving's a thing, because I thought it made it into a race. I mean, I know they wrecked a lot, but there at the end, but that's just, I feel like that's part of it, especially when you win and you're in. Like if you can win the first race of the year, like you're Cole Custer and you're up there pushing the shit out of people, you've really got nothing to lose, because more than likely you're not going to have the greatest year, and this might be your only chance to win, and you can win right out of the gate and spend the rest of the year preparing for the playoffs. Like I think that's why they're wrecking. I don't think it had anything to do really with the race. So overall, I enjoyed it. I would probably put it right there with Quigs. I thought from top to bottom, I even thought the coverage was an improvement from last year to an extent. It wasn't great, but the commercials and side-by-sides and things like that definitely made it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I can't speak to the broadcast at all, but I mean, I think you have to be satisfied with the result. You got everything you could want out of a Daytona race, aside for the rain. And even with the rain, to me, it almost benefited because we got NASCAR prime time. They got the whole race in, and we got an exciting result with everything you could expect from Daytona. There were wrecks, there was drama along the way, there was long shots in contention at the very end. And then I think really what solidifies it for me is William Byron winning. If this were like, you know, a 65-1 long shot, which I had all of them, That
You
one, I don't think that would have been necessarily the best thing for the sport. Instead, you get William Byron, who's humble in his, gracious with his win. And winning 2 in a row is, again, that's something that's really, really substantial. And I think it was good to have kind of like an up-and-coming face of the sport to be the one to lift the trophy, even if it was the same result we saw in 2024. I think best case scenario all the way around. I understand, obviously, some of the drivers were upset, particularly Denny Hamlin. But to me, I think he's being a little bit critical as well. And he even said on Actions Detrimental that he probably sounds like sour grapes. That would probably be my opinion as well. All you can ask for at a race like this is a shot there at the end. And Denny Hamlin was in contention pretty much until like there was 5 laps. I don't know exactly when that wreck happened, but I mean that's as good of a spot as you could want. And it's not like, I mean, I would understand if he never had a Daytona 500 trophy, but the guy's got 3 of them to show for it. I would have liked to see him be a little bit more complimentary of William Byron's success.
Everybody except for one guy is mad after Daytona.
Yeah.
Everybody just gets pissed.
I know actually, Quigs, credit to you for not being sour grapes because Legacy Motor Club showed out. Jimmy Johnson, P3. I know you were punching air when you saw that.
But that's like, I had Tyler Reddick to win.
Yeah.
Me saying, like, Tyler Reddick almost won that race. Like, no, he didn't.
Right.
Like, he was not really involved. Like, he came in second, but, like Jimmy Johnson was not, wasn't third.
Yeah.
But he was, so whatever.
But
Credit where credit's due.
But it's also Daytona. I think Spider makes a salient point that if somebody else would have squirted out of that smoke and those 3 cars that got through the crash weren't William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Jimmy Johnson, if it was somebody who'd be more of a long shot, then I think people would start that whole narrative again.
Yeah.
Oh, what a paper win and all that stuff. But you got a guy in great equipment, a talented driver, and does partially have a rabbit's foot up his ass. And you need all 3 of those things, I think, to win at Daytona. So, congratulations to, Hendrick and obviously the 24 team. And like I said, we have him coming up in a couple of minutes just to chat with William Byron. Spider.
One more thing, Large.
Go.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I really love the fact that, obviously we've seen in the 2024 Daytona 500, William Byron won as they threw the yellow flag, and we kind of got robbed. It was kind of an anticlimactic finish. I thought the NASCAR officials did a great job. Not only was there a wreck on the last lap, but they let him race to the line, and William Byron got it done. So feel any type of way you want about the finish. To me, there's always wrecks and drama late in these races, and I think, again, that was the best result we could have wanted, and that's coming from a guy who had half the field, but not William Byron. So I was very top to bottom thoroughly impressed and satisfied with this year's Daytona 500.
I had Byron. Right? I had him as best
Top
Chevy. Yeah, and I had Jesse Love, too. So I'm kind of broke even because I did spray the field, too, particularly right before we had gotten on the plane to go down there. But the same way that Spider said that Denny had said, oh, maybe it's sour grapes, like Denny deserves to be able to feel that way, even with the 3 wins or whatever, because he just, it's road rage more so than anything else. But another person that has a right to be a little bit angry, I think, is Eric Jones, because he got fucked. The way that NASCAR let him play and get to the finish line and all that stuff with William Byron, and they didn't do that to Eric Jones, my guy, Eric Jones, the guy that Quigs hates. Yep. I just don't think that that's a guy who probably has a leg to stand on here. But I think NASCAR got it right by letting the race play out at the end of the actual 500. And I'm talking about Bubba and Austin Cindric had won the duels, and Austin Cindric had won it, by a cunt error after they had thrown the caution, even though Eric Jones had crossed the finish line just, mere seconds later before Austin Cindric. Parker Kligerman is a filthy cheat. That guy came on this show, and he's going to be talking on the TV, acting all, innocent and stuff, but bad guy, man. That guy, I would, if I was the IRS, I'd be all over that fucking guy because he seemed like he wanted to cheat. But Parker Kligerman, a friend of the show, I felt bad for that guy having his win given away in trucks to Corey Heim after he was too low on both sides. But his his problems were a benefit for our guy Frankie Muniz,
There
who
you
was
go.
pushed up from P11 to a top 10 finish in the Truck Series. So good for him. And you can tell that I've been working on that name a little bit because I used to say Moonies and all that kind of shit.
Great character development, Large.
I appreciate that, Spider. Getting better every day. Talk to us about the weekend, Spider. Talk to us about heading down to the track in a full fire suit and some of the lies. You're the Parker Kligerman of Stolen Valor on a track, and I want to make sure people know about that. Talk to me about the weekend with you.
Yeah, I got to give a couple shout outs. And Moonhead,
Go.
I'm going to need your help with the pronunciation. Hedinger Racing.
Yeah.
Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of NASCAR's newest truck teams were incredibly gracious with us. I've been lucky to be on the pit box a couple times before, but I don't think ever at Daytona. So getting there for the truck race was incredibly cool. I really appreciate those guys, and they extended the invite up for us, so I'm going to be pulling for them. I love what they're building. They also got a driver in the family, and probably help me out again here, Moonhead, Katie Hedinger.
Yeah.
16 years old, female driver, one of the all-time winningest female drivers at Hickory Motor Speedway.
At 16 years old?
At 16 years old. Forgive me if I botched either of those names. I'm still learning. But what a pleasure it was to learn about this team and what they're building. Awesome family. And, again, they couldn't have been more hospitable. And, they shared the experience with me. So I was pulling for my guy, Mason Maggio, who was wheeling the truck for him. And that was a great way to start the weekend. We had a great time at the truck race. And then also, after the truck race, I want to give a shout-out to Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar pulled up to the wheelbarrow races Friday night. We ended up winning a race there in the Daytona infield. Carson was pushing me as I rode inside the wheelbarrow. The back of my kneecaps are still bruised up pretty good. Awesome. But we got it done, and I retired on top. And I think there's something to be said about these drivers who, their Super Bowl, the Daytona 500 weekend, is as big as it gets in NASCAR. And Carson took time to go chop it up and rub shoulders with the fans and the lot lizards that were existing inside of Daytona. So in the infield there, I thought that was really cool.
He was the winner. What's their new social? Whoever is like the best. The fan. What's the new thing they're doing? Like $1 million.
The driver engagement.
Yeah, he won that. Like he's in first place because he did that, and then you might even know this, but Rain Delay, he just streamed iRacing and like very funny stream, doing a lot of funny stuff. Like he's leader in the clubhouse after week one.
Absolutely. As soon as it started raining on the track, he went to his hauler and got on iRacing, which I love. He went live on Twitch.
They should have just cut the Fox broadcast to that.
I think that would have been cool.
They ran out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, Jersey Jerry and Rico Bosco got a shout out, which was great. In the name of shout outs, I have a couple more that I want to give to. National Debt Relief on Sunday afternoon was gracious enough to let us climb atop the pit box in Denny Hamlin's 11 ride. Myself, Rico, and Jerry all got to experience that, and I think Rico and Jerry really enjoyed that. So shout out Vincent over there who extended the invite. And then I got one other thank you and someone to address, and I believe it's a gentleman of the name Kyle Williamson who works for Daytona, the Speedway there. And after the race, Large, as you said, it was kind of clearing out. Everyone was heading to the parking lot, and we were salmon swimming upstream. We ran right to Victory Lane. We congratulated William Byron himself. And after it, we looked at each other and we're like, how the hell are we going to get out of here? How are we going to get back to the car?
That's right.
And this gentleman, Kyle Williamson, I believe his name was, put us on his golf cart and drove us straight to the parking lot. That was probably upwards of 2 miles away. So I want to give a shout out to Kyle as well. But overall, I thought the weekend was great. I thought there was some awesome stuff happening every single day in every single race. I was really encouraged by the inclusion of Cletus McFarlane, a YouTube star, over 4 million subscribers. He did a great job, not only in the car, but also with the post-race media. 40,000 people watched his in-car camera during the ARCA race, which I thought was really incredible. And I love to see that a star like him, who kind of has his hand in everything from flying planes and helicopters to drag racing, prioritized and, really wanted to be involved in NASCAR this weekend at the pinnacle, the world center of racing, if you will. So I thought that was a great addition. And shout out to Chili's again. The Ride the Dente 200 was the most viewed ARCA race in, I think, over a decade per Adam Stern's tweet. So love to see it. I think it was a win all the way around. Great truck race. And then obviously big things in the ARCA race, getting new eyes on that. And Xfinity and Cup was great as well.
Those shirts were unbelievable.
The Ride the Dente shirts were incredible.
I saw them and I was gonna ask for one, and then I was like, I'm not that, like, I was like, I'm not gonna ask, and then there was one on my desk. Colton grabbed me one, and I was like, thank God, those are so sick.
Yeah, we had a great time at Chili's as well. Love everything going on over there. Both Carson and Justin were incredibly gracious, not only with Large and I, but everyone that attended. I also neglected to shout out everyone who listens to this podcast that came out to Chili's. I speak for myself, and I hope Chili's agrees, but I was very impressed and happy with the turnout we had at that Chili's Ormond Beach.
It was great.
Margaret King, the GM at Chili's Ormond Beach, was incredibly gracious and hospitable, and it was cool to see her recognized, as was every other GM of a Chili's in America, in the actual chili pepper on the 7-car paint scheme. So great way to pay homage to those people that work at Chili's while also support what we're building. So great event top to bottom, and we had a lot of friends come out and join us for that. So I had a great weekend. I know I speak for myself when I say that, Large. I like to think you had a similar experience.
Yeah, I think, the Chili's thing was great. Carson Hocevar, sometimes we talk to people who don't jibe with their sponsors. It's never like a huge difference, but sometimes you just don't believe that they're even into what they have on their cars, and that's fine, right? It's sports clips. I couldn't have it on my car, right, because I'm bald. Carson Hocevar, like we had asked the guys, what's your favorite order here? And Justin Haley's like, I'm a fajita guy. I love when it come out sizzling. You can tell he's had fajitas there before. Carson Hocevar's like, oh, yeah, they do a triple dipper, and I found out you can replace the fries, so I go double Southwest egg rolls. And, he's a kid. And then I went to interview him, and before I did, I had to have someone get him a wet wipe because, the ranch dressing from the Southwestern egg rolls was all over him, and he has the Chili's Gold card where he can eat for free in any Chili's in the world and stuff. So I thought that it was a very good experience. The worst part about that was Moonhead had showed up, which we always love to have Moonhead there. Some guy comes over, I'm standing there with Moonhead, and he's like, hey, do you mind if I get a picture? And I was like, of course. And the guy handed me his phone. I was like, okay, I got it. And it happens to me a couple of times. This asshole is such a fucking celebrity that it actually hurts. It hurts my feelings, yeah. So, but it was a very good time with that. I will mention one of the worst things that had happened this weekend. There was a hangar party. There's a private airstrip right by Daytona. They have a hangar party there. Demi Lovato performed for some reason, which is fine. She looks like she's back, I guess. And I had seen John Hunter Nemechek there. And John Hunter came over. He's like, I look forward to doing stuff with you guys this year, which is awesome. Love John Hunter. His wife was there. Again, his wife, stunningly beautiful woman. So I had met her before, gave her a hug, gave John a buddy hug. And then his wife was talking to Tony Breidinger, whatever. And I saw Tony, and she said, hi. And I went to give her a hug, and she's not a hugger. So I sort of had to do one of those, like, pull out, you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden I felt very perverted, like trying to come in for a hug that really wasn't there. So apologies to her, but I'm going to move on. I can tell you who was a hugger, the dude from Reacher, that show on Amazon, that gigantic, handsome guy. He was
Thad
down
Castle.
there. Yeah, exactly.
Thad Castle?
Thad Castle from Blue Mountain State. That's what I know him as. I've never seen this Reacher show, but I hear a lot of good things about it.
Alan Richson, I think, might be his name. That's the show my wife watches with a cigarette and the sound off, right? And it sounds like there's a Jake break going off in the room that she's watching it on, So she went over and took a picture with him. The guy was extremely gracious and whatnot. So thank you to him. President Trump came down and, was extremely gracious. Thank you to him. I will tell you who gets a big old fuck you from me is Captain America, Anthony Mackie. I know he's made some comments and then backtracked them. I'm not even talking about that. That guy was a dick. Like, he wasn't very, like, like everyone's just down there. The jets are flying overhead and all this stuff. And you're fucking Captain America. I don't know if he should have went over and shook the president's hand. Maybe there's smoke between those two that I don't know about. But I know I'd gone over to him to do like, hey, thumbs up, like just to get a clip from him. And he was like, nah. Like put me on the pay me no mind list. That's enough for me. Fuck Captain America. If anybody on this goes to see that movie, I hope the fucking projector breaks, and I hope your popcorn's stale and your fucking Coke has no bubbles in it. That guy seemed like a real dick. So I wanted to get that out there, and whatever. I don't know if it's a hot take or not. Go ahead, Spider.
Demi Lovato was great. I got to be honest, when I heard that Demi Lovato was going to be doing the concert, I was like very underwhelmed and disappointed. Gun to my head, I don't think I could name one Demi Lovato song.
Yep. And
I was really, really impressed with everything I saw and heard from her. She looked good, she sounded good, and she was a great entertainer at the NASCAR Ignite party there at the hangar. So Cool for the Summer was stuck in my head for the rest of the weekend, as was the Ride the Dente jingle. But I think Demi did a great job. And I know you mentioned Tony Breidinger, Large. I got the chance after the truck race and before the wheelbarrow race to catch Tony Breidinger, Chandler Smith, and Lane Riggs on pit road for the truck race, which you may see in the vlog coming out in just a couple of days. But I do appreciate all three of them for giving us some time after a dramatic truck race.
Did you try to hug her?
I did not.
That's on me then. That's on me.
It was Valentine's Day, though, so I had to tread lightly. You know what I mean?
I guess in if I'm gonna turn that watchful eye inwards to me, who the fuck do I think I can go over and just start hugging Tony?
Where my hug at?
Exactly. I think I'm the creepy one there, but I'm still gonna. So I'll turn back the clock on that a little bit and apologize outright to Tony. But the other guy, Anthony Mackie, he can go choke on a dick. One of the cool things that had happened to us was we had a cool RV again. That RV was awesome, Spider, right? That was one of the nicer ones we ever had. And so we're hanging out there during the rain delay, and then all of a sudden they were like, drivers need to be to their cars by 5:25. So when that had happened, we then left the RV to get into our golf carts to go back over to pit row. And our golf carts were partially blocked by the RV next to us, which happened to be Legacy Motorsports. They had a couple. So I walked over to their tent. Those guys were very gracious to us. We were stealing their Wi-Fi the whole weekend. Everything was fantastic. So I went over to them. I said, hey, listen, your golf carts are blocking ours in. If you can move them, I already called my attorney and all that shit. Jimmy Johnson comes out. Hey, Large. I was floored. This guy's a gem. I was like, hey, Jimmy. I didn't know he knew my fucking name. And he's sitting there, and he's in like, a white T-shirt. Everyone in Legacy's in black. And like some sort of, joggers or something like that. And I was like, how's everything going? He's like, oh, it's fine. I was like, it doesn't look fine. Like you could see something was going on. He's like, our RV is locked and we can't get in and my fire suit's in there. And no one had a key because the driver for the RV was not due back for hours, but it had one of those keypads where you could, 4, 3, 2, 1 and you get in. That had shorted out. So there was no way to get in there without a physical key. And he was like, it's not really a big deal. I said, it actually is, Jimmy, because it's 5:10. You got to be in a car in 15 minutes. He's like, you know what? You're right. It is a big deal. He jumped into a thing and somehow got a backup fire suit, got to the car, within minutes of having to get out there, and then, finished P3. This handsome, soft-spoken guy who knew my name. If we're giving out any kind of awards today, I'm giving it to Jimmy Johnson. That guy's just always been cooler than the other side of the pillow, particularly with that type of stuff. He's like, I'll just wear a generic fire suit. I was going to run in and try and give him spiders. But, I think it's kind of
been awesome.
Wouldn't that be cool? I think it's cool that as you get to have these interactions with superstars and you find out just how, human they are. We were at the driver's lot with Bubba, then with Chase Elliott, then with Austin, then with Denny, Conor. It's again, I'm always floored with the amount of access that NASCAR grants us and also anybody who's kind of just down there hanging out. We were drinking champagne. Shout out to Frank Kelleher, who is the president of Daytona. We went down there, during the victory celebration, and, he gave us some champagne. Shout out to the guy from Jostens who provides the rings for the winners. He gave one to my daughter to wear first. She's like, oh, this is cool. He's like, you're wearing it before William Byron is. Like the same thing. Everybody was so goddamn nice. And Spider, who had the big this big stupid hat on that we make fun of. Spider was wearing this thing, just happened to be wearing it when the guy who wears big stupid hats won the race. So William Byron throws it on off of, Spider's head and the whole deal. So that's why I say if we didn't watch it on TV, I can't give it an objective rating because I had the fucking time of my life again.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So shout out to NASCAR and everybody involved. And we're going to keep it going. We're down in Atlanta this weekend. So Spider and I are going down back down to Atlanta this weekend. Moon, are you going to be in Atlanta?
I'm not, unfortunately.
Did you stay for the race? When did you bug out?
I left after the ARCA race.
Oh, you did? Okay, so we only got to
Yeah.
see you at Chili's, and then I didn't see you on the grid too. No, I didn't.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so Spider and I are going down. Colton, the guy who had shot for us, is coming down with us also. So if you see us at the racetrack, please say hello. Dozens of people. We really did feel like superstars. Like when people walk through and they're like, hey, maybe they're all saying, hey, fuck you, fatty, but I haven't heard that part. Everyone was so nice, particularly with Spider. This is the stolen valor part. Donald Trump had showed up at the track. Everyone knew about it. We were getting there a little bit behind schedule, and security was bumped up, as you could imagine. So we had to wait on a long line for security until one of the security guards said, oh, my God, that's one of the drivers, pointing to Spider, who has a real deal fire suit on. The belt on his fire suit was engraved or embroidered with his actual signature. This thing was top notch, the whole thing, and it did fit him like a glove. Looked like a real deal. Spider said, yeah, I'm P6 in the ARCA, and I'm one of the backup guys for today's race. I got to get through. So our whole group, whoom, right through into the metal detectors and shit like that. We didn't have to wait online. Correct, Spider, or am I making up more than it is?
That is correct. I would say in front of a recorded mic that I probably didn't embellish too many details. The security guard who didn't recognize us was like, oh, you got to be a driver. Like, let me prioritize your entry. Come with me. Grab your crew. Come on. And she did help us expedite our entry. However, once we got to the actual metal detector, I believe it was the same security guard that was in the office with William Byron and yourself for this interview you guys are about to hear. He definitely knows who we are, and I think he kind of just went with it and was like, yeah, sure, he's a driver, come on in. And yeah, but I certainly was not screaming from the rooftops like, let me in, I'm a driver.
No.
Until after the race and William Byron won. I was trying to get to victory lane to congratulate him and put the big hat on him, but I was not really lying to the security staff.
No. But yeah, we did use it a little bit to our advantage. That guy, Spider, who, by the way, is coming in with William Byron, he's an ex-FBI agent. So they got real deal guys kind of in there, and you fooled them all.
Yeah, I've long said they're too good at their job. They need to let them get a couple more punches in on pit road anytime there's an altercation. I think that would do numbers for the TV broadcast and social.
Let's talk about a blue-collar guy in Ryan Preece. Moonhead had mentioned him before. So Ryan Preece goes upside down like a Delta flight every chance he gets, and you're starting to feel bad, for the guy if you didn't already. But he had said some really heartfelt stuff afterwards, and he was unhurt. I'm sure he was shaken up and battered and bruised a little bit, but got out of the car under his own volition, was released from the infield care center, the whole deal. But he said the last thing that went through his head was his daughter, his newborn and whatnot. And it kind of put things in perspective. We were kind of going around the car in front of Chili's, showing some of the flaps and whatnot that are supposed to, keep this thing down. But there's just no way of maybe not turning these cars into kites, on super speedways. Is there, Moonhead? Is there a way to stop this? Is there a way to stop Ryan Preece from going upside down every time he's at Daytona?
I mean, I'm there's smarter people than me working on it, but I feel like there's something to the underbody just with how weird a lot of the flips have been here lately. I don't think we'll ever make it where there's no flipping happening at super speedways just because they're packed up and they're going fast, and cars are always going to find a way to go flying and wreck like hell. But I feel like when you got cars climbing tires, popping wheelies, and just floating like a feather, I feel like there's something to that. And something probably needs to be done to try to prevent that. So I don't know if that, means getting rid of the underbody or if just more. I don't know if we can add more flaps to the cars. It seems like every year we're having to add a new flap, but they definitely need to figure something out, because that could have been a lot worse. It was, since he was okay, it was really cool, but like it could have been a few feet in the wrong direction, and it could have been really, really bad. So they need to figure it out. I don't think they'll ever get rid of it completely, but I mean, you had LaJoy flipping at Michigan last year because it was windy. I think Harrison Burton flipped a few years ago. Obviously, Preece went flying through the air. Josh Berry flipped last year, and I feel like this was something that wasn't happening near as much with the old car, at least not the way that it's happening with these.
The reason I went to you first, Moon, is because you have that historical perspective. As far as the four of us here on the dais, Spider and I have the least to say about it. And Quigs, you're a former rocket scientist, correct? Yeah. Aerospace engineer. As much as it's frustrating for a guy like Preece, and again, when the car took off like that, it got real quiet, and all I thought about was my daughter. That hit me right in the feels. But the safety that they've been able to create inside the car, where he can walk out, is extraordinary. The safer barrier stuff is extraordinary, that type of thing. Is it just something that, we need more safety where these cars can't flip over, but is the nature of the sport something that's just going to flip cars every now and again? There's nothing we can fucking do about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you think about it as like the equation of it, speed creates lift. So the faster they're going, the more likely they are to get off the ground. The way to counteract that is downforce, and people don't want downforce. And you don't. There's nothing you can do sometimes when it's going that fast. It's just gonna once you get part of like the surface area that catches the wind, you're gone. It's just going up in the air.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer either, but to me, it's because the bottom of the cars are flat. So anytime they're even, not on the ground, if there's any way for air to get underneath there, especially when they're going that fast, they're just going to go up in the air like we saw with Ryan Preece. And I think what can be blamed for this one is, I think it was Christopher Bell who got in the wall and then came down and hit into Ryan Preece. So his nose lifted off the ground slightly, and then all the air just lifted him up, and he kind of did that wheelie thing that we saw. So I don't know what the answer is, if there's something they can do on the bottom of the cars to try to prevent this, but I almost feel like it's partially inevitable that something like this will happen, especially at a plate track.
And it's just unlucky that it, continues to happen to Preece, but I hope that he's, full recovery with whatever headaches he's feeling today. I remember he showed up the week after last year with the two black eyes and whatnot. That's blue collar, right? That's blue collar. So somebody's got to give him, as Spider says so eloquently, somebody's got to give him his flowers, because it is. Before we move on from Daytona, we're going to go 3 wide with the Daytona 500 winner, the repeat winner, William Byron, and this is brought to you by something that I personally know a lot about. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets. These erection-enhancing tablets help men achieve stronger, harder, and longer-lasting erections for sexual activities. Blue Chew is putting its money where its mouth is and offering you a month free. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive a prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting line at the pharmacy. We can all relate to wanting to feel more confident, especially in the bedroom, and Blue Chew can help. So make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free and visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. And as we just get through talking about healthy erections, let's go to 3 wide with William Byron. All right, everybody. So as promised, I'm sitting here. You know what? It's a luxury. It's a luxury for a small podcast like us, a small, humble, handsome podcast like us, probably one of the greatest podcasts in the world, but to have the luxury of having the Daytona 500 winner for the 3rd or 4th year in a row, include us on
Yeah.
the New York tour, like in
Yeah.
general. So we had like Stenhouse in here, and unfortunately for us, William Byron doesn't seem like he's going to quit winning Daytona 500s anytime soon.
Try not to.
Yeah, William Byron back in the house. Congratulations, man. What a fantastic achievement
man.
for you, doubling up on the Daytona 500. How you feeling? How's the whirlwind been since we saw you in Victory Lane?
Yeah, it's been wild. It's not a lot of sleep. I had a few beverages with my team after the race,
Sure.
and then I think I got 30 minutes of sleep on Sunday night, but that was great. And then last night was here, so got a bunch of sleep and kind of caught up now.
I think we target the casual NASCAR fan, right? The guys who are deeper in the weeds,
Yeah.
Have so many other places to go that are so much better at talking about NASCAR than us. So I'm consistently fascinated with all the little stuff that goes on, particularly after somebody wins the race. So
Yeah.
you jump up onto victory lane right away. You spend time with your crew.
Yeah.
Right? The most important people, you wouldn't be there without them. And then right after that, it's your sponsors. And you do the changing of the hats, which always makes me laugh. You sit there and the winner takes the hat off, next sticker on the car, takes, the whole deal. And
Yeah.
I love that. And then it's your family, right? Then the family comes up. It really is one of the better celebrations that I think the fans can even get to be a part of at just arm's length. So how does that feel to get in there, have all these people around you and all that stuff? Talk to me about, what your dad said to you afterwards. Give me something that's going to make me cry.
Yeah, it's a rush. I mean, the what's different, I think, about the 500 is that for some reason they let all the family and everybody come out onto the racetrack. So like you're on the grass there, and I had my mom, dad, sister, her boyfriend, and our whole team, and Jeff, and pretty much everyone was out there. So that's a way different feeling. Like most wins, you get out there on the front stretch, you're away from everybody. So my dad, that was his first. Well, he wasn't there last year, so he was really choked up last year just talking on the phone, and this year it was nice to see him take it in and us be able to have that moment together, and then go to victory lane like you said and do all the hat dance and have the fans there and everything. The confetti's pretty awesome. That's probably the coolest thing about the victory lane there.
Yeah, shout out to, we were just talking about him briefly, Stefan Parsons, because he was coming over talking to Spider and I, because we've been friendly with him. I didn't know he was such a close friend of the family too. He went right through security. I was like, where the hell are you going, you son of a bitch? And he went right over there and was celebrating with you and your family.
Yeah, we've been best friends since I was 14. So
I didn't know.
Since I started racing, we met each other. We raced Legends cars together, and we crashed each other a couple times. So it started early on, so it was cool.
When you first started in Cup, how much experience did you have racing against Jimmy? I didn't check the dates, right? But you came in, right? You still had some overlap with him for a couple of years.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years,
yeah,
18 and 20.
Teammate.
Okay,
yeah, 18 and
19 and 20. Okay, yeah.
Actually, 3. So his retirement year was my third season. So, yeah, I had Jimmy as a teammate for a while. Yeah.
We had him in the RV next to us.
Oh.
Jimmy, when we were in the infield this time around.
That's pretty sweet.
And it said drivers report to report to the cars by 5:25.
Yeah.
I get out of my RV, just take my golf cart casually to the track, and there's Jimmy still there in street clothes. I said, "What's up, Jimmy?" He's like, "We're locked out of the RV." But he was so like cool, calm, and collected because there was a push button thing, some electricity thing went wrong in it, and nobody has a key
Right before
anymore.
we got that going?
Right before, so he's like, he had to go. He's like, "Oh, but we have plenty of time." I'm like, "Jimmy, it's 5:10." He's like, "Holy shit!" Jumped into a golf cart and somehow found a backup fire suit.
Wow.
But to be cool,
And
calm,
finished third.
Yeah, and finish
Yeah.
third. That's like that's my whole point. Like to see somebody who's operating at that level still outside of racing, becoming the majority owner of Legacy or whatever the hell he is, and then still coming up and pulling a P3 every now and again in Daytona 500.
He's a man.
How's that feel for a young guy like you who's 20 years younger than him?
Yeah, Jimmy's a man. I mean, he's so cool and collected. Like, you ever hear his radio? Like, him and his spotter Earl, they just talk like they're just chilling on the beach.
He's
nuts.
6 o'clock straight up and down.
Yeah, so he was my favorite driver growing up. So I've always been a big fan of his, and it was cool being his teammate and then seeing him. He's got a lot on his plate, man. He's doing all these sponsor things and team owner, and in racing still. It's pretty cool.
Give a shout out to Rudy Fugel. Give me the
Yeah.
road to you. I used to say that a crew chief and a driver, sometimes you see it's like Batman and Robin, but God forbid I ever call Rudy Fugel Robin. He might punch me in the mouth, but maybe like a Batman and Alfred type thing, because he's
Yeah.
kind of pulling the levers,
Yeah.
from behind the screen. You guys had started together in trucks, right?
Yep.
And then talk to me about the way that gap happened, filling it back in, and now being what some consider the most effective 1-2 punch in the Cup Series.
Well, he's a genius, behind the scenes. So he can be intimidating to work with, but I think that what makes Rudy so special is he's got a great heart, and he's a competitor. That's how he got his nickname, Rudy. He just works harder than anybody else. So so we started in the truck series, raced together there at Kyle Busch Motorsports, and then I went off to Hendrick and started racing, and there was an opportunity for me to get a new crew chief when Chad was retiring. So Rudy was that guy. They honestly brought him, they suggested it. I always wanted him as part of my Cup team, and I was like, man. So we sat down at TGI Fridays, had lunch, and he gave it some thought.
Spared
for a few
no
days.
expense at TGI Fridays?
Yeah, so we had a great little date there and hit it off and went on.
You're 27 years old, as I had mentioned. You turned 28 in November, correct?
Yeah, November.
Yeah. So you starting to feel like an old man just because you see these kids coming up, and I know that you've been doing this since a very young age. I spent a little bit of time in Daytona this weekend with Zilisch, Conor Zilisch.
Yeah.
And very impressed by him. The kid seems a little bit wiser beyond his years.
Mm-hmm.
So you see these young hotshots coming up. Is it starting to make you feel every year of 27 and maybe beyond, because you don't have a veteran moniker to you just yet, because there's some old sons of bitches in there. Denny Hamlin jumps to mind right away. AJ Allmendinger, but there's some guys who are still above 40.
For sure.
But where do you feel like you fit in here in this, like the charging youth? Where are you in that journey?
I feel like I'm just kind of getting into my, I don't know, whether it's prime or just my years where I feel really comfortable, and I'm like, okay, this is my workspace. I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to do, my routine. So there are some younger guys coming in, and that's great. I was that person at 20 years old, so I think it takes a while to get used to it and get comfortable. And NASCAR is different because it takes a few years to have success. Like, you kind of have to go through that sort of adaptation period to the Cup Series. So I mean, it's tough, but I think I would say there's a lot of drivers from 22 to 35. So it's pretty interesting.
We had one of the old men in here last year, Joey Logano,
Yeah.
and Joey, having a couple of championships under his belt, we'd asked him specifically, a win at the Daytona 500 is equal to how many regular season wins for him? And again, he's gotten some, Cup championship
3.
chops. Yeah, he's got 3 championships. So he said that a win in Daytona is equal to 6 regular season wins. That's and that's Joey's experience, right? Because he has so many wins and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
What do you feel having another win at the Daytona 500? Is it as, I mean, this is very special for what you did, but does that have a comp to maybe like regular season wins to you?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's like to me, we have major races in our series, so like the Coca-Cola 600, Southern 500, the Crown Jewels, and so to me, they stand differently or on their own compared to the other races. So I don't know how to compare it to. And then you have your whole regular season, like when we go to Atlanta and Bristol and all these places, and it's a unique. Daytona is a completely unique race from the rest of the season. That's how I would sum it up.
Let's start. Oh, by the way. So they took your car again, right?
Yeah, it's gone.
So
my crew chief is pissed.
Yeah, for people who are casuals, so when you win the Daytona 500, Daytona International Speedway keeps your car to keep in their museum on display for the full year. You don't get it back until the following. I remember when I spoke to Ricky about it a couple of years ago. For a one-driver team, that's a huge expense.
Yeah.
Also winning the Daytona 500 is a huge financial windfall, so it balances itself out.
Yeah.
Hendrick has a little bit deeper pockets than Ricky's team. But how does it feel to just kind of give up that car again, like this baby that you just rode to the first Daytona 500 win last year, and then you don't see it for another year, and then the same thing happens? It's like winning a race and somebody grabbing your bike as a kid. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's good for the history. They put it in the museum, so I think it's really special. But last year it wasn't such a big deal because it was a backup car, so it wasn't one of our best cars. But this was like our 3rd best car, so we're gonna have to find a way to replace it.
Yeah, they just robbed the rocket ship from you.
But I heard in Victory Lane that we hadn't won a race with it, so this is the only one. Now we have a few other cars we've won quite a few races with, so hopefully it all works out.
They did give you a massive trophy, though.
Yeah.
So we've had this trophy here multiple times. The last time you were here, they had me lifting it and moving it around, which was a terrible idea. Now you have a gentleman who's a retired FBI agent going around lifting this thing.
It's heavy, isn't it?
So this is one that you already have in your trophy case. Now you've added a second. I know that everyone is searching for this, the big cup. But what's that one, other than a championship, that really does elude you? What's the one that you won? I mean, there's so many grandfather clocks that people can have, and like those type of things. Yeah. So what's the one that eludes you that William Byron wants to get ASAP? I know you want to win every week, but what's that one?
I would say one of the coolest races to me is the Coca-Cola 600. That's a big deal, and it's my home race and right by our race shop, Hendrick Motorsports. So that would be a special one, and that's a pretty neat trophy too. It's like very historic. I think it's been the same for like 60 years.
Where do you keep them all?
You
have a bunch.
I don't really like have them all around my house or anything like that. I just kind of keep them in a certain like office and don't really look at them too much.
When you think about, because I think people had asked that a lot on the Netflix special about the trophies and all that stuff. So now the Netflix special is far in the rear view. What's your take on the benefits, or maybe, I don't know, some of the things that were negatives from being a part of that? Because I thought it was good for you. Like, I thought it was very good from a PR standpoint. Is there something perhaps that wasn't as good that we don't know about?
No, I mean, I think it just is. It's very intrusive, like into your daily life. The only thing I would like to see, and the new series is coming out in April, I believe, and I'm excited for that. I participated in that and had some fun with it. So I think it'll turn out really, really good. But I would say it's just, I wish they followed along the entire season, because I feel like they get a snapshot of the playoffs, and that's when you're so serious. And like for me, I'm pretty introverted when it comes to competition, so I'm not really gonna be as I'm not going to share my daily life as much, when I'm in that part of the season. But hopefully we can do more stuff like that, because I think it was a really good thing for the sport.
Outside of the playoffs, would you feel like you'd be more of an open book to this? Because Denny had them in the kitchen while he's pretending like he cooks for his daughters every day. But the way he burnt those pancakes, he doesn't do that shit. Like, how much William Byron are you willing to show?
Yeah,
and this is similar to a question I asked Chase Elliott a couple weeks ago when I asked him if he wanted to go on OnlyFans. I was just joking around with that. But how much are you willing to show on like a Netflix special that would be outside of the playoffs?
I feel like I would show quite a bit. Like on a July week, like, I mean, I would probably bring them along if I went out of town on vacation or something. I would be fine with that. It's just when it's in the middle of like the round of 8 and you're trying to get to the championship, it's definitely stressful.
What else was I going to say? Oh, Jeff Gordon. Mm-hmm. So it seems like every time you break a record, right? You're breaking one of Jeff's records. Is that because you dislike him and you're trying to wipe him from the history books? Is it personal, or is it just a coincidence that you are the? It seemed like when I talked to older boxers,
I don't think I've broken that many of his records.
No, but you're on your way, right?
Wins. Yeah.
But so how's your relationship then with Jeff, and how's the relationship afterwards? Because he had spoke in the presser right afterwards saying, "I hope William breaks everything."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's awesome. I think he's been a good mentor for me. He was really tough on me when I started at Hendrick. He actually, when I interviewed with him the first time, I'd won 4 truck races, and he's like, "Look, this isn't the truck series, buddy. Like, you're gonna have to figure this out. Like, Cup is really hard." And so he was tough on me getting going, and then I think our relationship has grown over the years a lot, just spending time off the track too.
People are very, very quick to criticize Daytona 500 winners, right? Like sometimes you get guys who don't make it to winner's circle either ever or that often, and they can criticize it almost like it's not a real win. With you, you're a talented guy in very good equipment, but to get a win in Daytona 500, much less 2 in a row, you do need to have a little bit of a rabbit's foot up your ass. And if you look at that last lap to see you squirting through with Tyler, I was just so happy to see, like, it's almost like you're looking for survivors, right? Like, and all of a sudden you guys kind of come through, and then the third guy through is Jimmy John. Like, it was very exciting. So talk to me about that, like just going towards the lighter smoke again. Like, what did you do in order to win the Daytona 500 coming into that last lap? I think you were P7 coming in?
Yeah,
right.
P9 actually.
Oh,
coming in the last lap. I was 6th down the backstretch. So, yeah, our race didn't go exactly as planned. Like, leading up to that point, I think we restarted 4th with 30 to go and just didn't have the best lane choice on that, and we went to the 3rd lane and went backwards. But I think this race is, it's unpredictable. There's crashes, there's things that happen, but you have to put yourself in those positions and capitalize on it. And, a lot of times it doesn't work out. I think up until the last 2 years, I hadn't finished really a 500. So, but I felt like I was always working on being a better plate racer and establishing that kind of craft. So it just takes time, and a lot of them don't go your way.
What can we expect from you going into Atlanta? I mean, let's say you're going on a tear here. I'm very excited about it. Give me a little bit of an idea what people can expect when they tune into Atlanta this week.
I think you're going to see a lot of the same stuff you saw at Daytona. It's going to be a little bit more like a 1.5 mile track where there's some separation between the cars, but it probably is going to come down to a crazy finish like it did last year, and Atlanta's one of our best races.
You have been extremely honest, particularly with me, when we first started doing this podcast. The first interview I had with you, I said, what can I expect from this season? You said, Large, sometimes towards the end of the summer, you're going to realize just how long the season is.
Yeah.
And it resonated with me, right?
Yeah.
And then last year, you guys had that 2-week Olympic break, and that felt like heaven.
Yeah,
just to
awesome.
see everyone kind of cut loose for a couple of weeks. It was well-deserved. How are we looking out in this season? Are you excited about Mexico City? This is going to be a grind this season, right? No more.
It will be, yeah. To your point, I think I did a ton of traveling in the off season. The point of that was to be prepared for a long season because we only have one off week. So I think, I feel refreshed and ready, and I think it's going to be a long season. But I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things with Mexico City, and the playoffs are different this year. So I think it'll be fascinating to see all that.
Yeah, a couple of distractions.
Yeah. What's that? Distraction?
Just Mexico City and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Just to mix it up a little bit.
From the norm, yeah. I think the summer lays out, and the bracket challenge is there too. So, somebody's going to get that. So, I'm kind of excited to see that play out.
Adam Stern, we talked about it earlier. RCR has planned to reassert itself as the home team for NASCAR's blue-collar fan base. That was under new pres Mike Verlander. Our team is what it is. There are teams with slicker taglines and flashier shoe games, but that's not who we are. So RCR are trying to establish themselves as the blue-collar team. The shot with the sneakers has to go through 2311, and I take umbrage with that, right, because my shoe game is always tight, right? How do you classify Hendrick Motorsports? It's not a blue-collar team, right? I mean, I don't think anyone would ever, accuse them of being that. But if you could kind of sum them up, how would you describe the team?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of great people, but I think honestly it's just excellence. Like, our team is
Talk some
focused
shit.
on they're focused on winning, and that's the history, and that's what Mr. Hendrick expects, and anything short of that, we're not doing our job. So I think when you go there, it's a lot of pressure, but we have great people behind us, and Mr. Hendrick gives us all the tools and resources to go out there and do our jobs.
That's the way an employee should talk. I don't know if someone's going to ever come to me and ask me about Barstool and say, is it blue collar? Is it sneakers? And me say, no, it's about excellence. I think it's the reason that you guys have a very special team and you're a very special driver. I'm going to reiterate this one more time. He went up there with his crew, then he was taking pictures with his sponsors, then he had taken some pictures with his family, and then he came over and he gave a little time to me and Spider. That means the fucking world to us, just so you know. So we really appreciate your support. We love seeing you here every year, at least once talking to you every year, particularly with this trophy. You deserve all the accolades. The luck thing is out the window when it comes to a guy like you. Wish you the continued success. This is William Byron. All he does is win races, and all he does is win them 2 times in a row. I think it's fucking fantastic. Back to Rubbin is racing. All right, so William Byron is, again, thank you so much for coming into the office afterwards. I know they got a big media tour as soon as he wins the Daytona 500. So having Barstool as part of that stop is an honor for us. And I want to point out, I did ask him the question, right? Blue collar, this, that, sneaker thing. And when I did to ask him how to describe Hendrick Motorsports, and he said excellence, I thought that was probably the best thing that an employee can say about their employer. So thank you again to William, and we'll see him same time next year when he goes for the three-peat. But this weekend, we're heading down to Atlanta. We got a full slate of racing, and I know people are always saying, where's everything going on? We'll tell you right now. Trucks are Saturday at 1:30 in the afternoon on FS1 with at least one familiar Cup face. Announced this week, Kyle Busch will drive 5 truck races this season for Spire Motorsports. beginning with this weekend in Atlanta. I didn't see his odds yet up on DraftKings, but I did see him on the roster of guys driving the trucks. Busch will also race trucks at Charlotte and Nashville, where he's raced trucks before, and also at 2 tracks he's never raced at, North Wilkesboro and Watkins Glen. He hasn't raced trucks there ever. Xfinity is also Saturday. So trucks are 1:30 on FS1. Xfinity is going to be 5 p.m. on the CW. And it was announced that Eric Almirola will return to Xfinity for 9 races in 2025. And the number 19 for JGR starting this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And then finally in Cup, the Ambetter Health 400 is going to be at 3 p.m. on Sunday on Fox. Race number 2 of the season. It's 260 laps, ran over 400 miles. The top 5 active NASCAR Cup Series starts at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Kyle Busch has been there 30 times, Denny 29, Joey 22, Keselowski 21, and Michael McDowell 18. Dale won there. Dale Sr. won there a record 9 times, but Joey, Brad, Byron, and Kyle Busch all have multiple wins at this track. And just to give you guys a comparison, I know they were going around talking about how we had a record purse at Daytona, which I believe was over $30 million, the purse at Daytona was. The purse for this race in Atlanta is $11 million. I almost said only $11 million. But it just goes to show you how these purses, kind of go up and down in between races. So Atlanta will be there. Come say hello. We're going to be spending a little time with the Body Armor people and with Ryan Blaney, but please come say hello. And we're going to have trucks on FS1 at 1:30, Xfinity at 5 p.m. on the CW. That's on Saturday. And then our Cup race 3 p.m. on Fox.
I do think it was pretty funny that NASCAR finally listened and moved the race forward because of rain.
Yes.
And they basically just moved it more into the rain.
Yeah.
It didn't really work, but at least they're going to probably do it this year.
Yeah.
I think that showed
It does sound like they're listening to the fans, whether it means modifying the race green flag start time or, like letting the races go to the end. Like we saw them get crushed with the duels. People were very upset with what happened with Eric Jones, and that very much could have happened in the actual 500. Instead, they let William Byron race to the line and win without any sort of intervention.
Yeah, now they just got to get rid of SVG. By the way, how great was that flyover this time, Spider? The flyovers, it was awesome, right?
It seemed like I could have thrown a beer and hit one of the fighter jets.
Shut up.
So loud.
They kept doing donuts and coming back over.
it
really
felt like there were
showing off.
multiple flyovers.
Yeah,
And
and it was
you don't
terrifying
hear them
each time.
until they're right over your head. So
Yeah.
you'll just be having a conversation, then you hear them rip by, and it's like by the time you look up, they're already gone. If that doesn't give you a freedom boner, I don't know what will. Shout out Blue Chew.
And even having the Beast be the lead car, with all 41 cars behind him or whatever. Chase Briscoe, the only person in front of him was the president and the Beast. It was really cool shit going on at Daytona this year. So
Write that
again,
down. If we ever need to do a custom segment for Blue Chew, we'll do the Freedom Boner segment.
I like
Freedom
that.
Boner. Yeah.
Freedom Boner of the week.
Yeah. I'll show mine. Fuck it. Let's go picking the tires. Racing season is upon us, and from green flag to checkered flag, you can get in all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized gaming operator of NASCAR. So many betting options on DraftKings, from live betting, props, and so much more. Start the NASCAR season off in the winner's circle. We're week 2, and we had a really good time betting on Daytona 500. That's only going to continue into Atlanta. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So take the checkered flag with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the Sportsbook app and use the code RUBBIN, RUBBIN. That's code RUBBIN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I hit on Jesse Love because I didn't like the short odds on Austin Hill last week, and Austin Hill had some mechanical issues. Otherwise, he looked like he was they dominate down there in Daytona, but Jesse Love comes away with it. And I hit on William Byron as the best Chevy, so I'm going first this week. You guys can go fuck yourselves. Have you guys seen anything kind of sexy jump out at you? I already put a bunch in, but is there anything that's been jumping out at you as far as this race?
Yeah, I think you said it, Large. And I've said it before a bunch on this podcast as well. RCR always shows up when it's a plate track race. We saw Austin Hill win the Xfinity race at Daytona 3 years in a row. This year he didn't win, but his teammate Jesse Love won. So I've been really encouraged by what I saw with RCR. And I know you said you're gonna go first, but I'm just gonna rob you right now.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You just did it. I love it.
I'm taking Austin Hill plus 300.
Are you
in the
fucking
Xfinity
kidding me?
race
So
in
am I.
Atlanta. I know that's not super juicy, but he's proven time and time again that he's the guy to beat at a high banking oval kind of. I know Atlanta's not exactly Daytona, but similar kind of vibe with the reconfigurations, especially based on the races that we saw there last year. I'm going Austin Hill in Xfinity, and in Cup, I'm also riding with an Austin. I'm going with Austin Cindric, who's 11-1 right now on DraftKings. I've been extremely encouraged by what I saw with him the last couple super speedway plate track races. He's always there at the end. I think the last 5 races at super speedways, he's been in the top 5 with 5 or less to go, and he rarely crashed in those opportunities. So he's seemingly always there at the end. He finished 4th. There was a 3-wide finish for the win, a photo finish last year in this race, and he was the first car behind him. But I think it'll be Team Penske this week. I think Blaney's a good pick. We're going to rub shoulders with him, which is probably a good sign for him because seemingly everyone we spend time with ends up winning, whether it be Chase Elliott winning the Clash or Bubba Wallace winning a dual race shortly after they were in this very podcast room. But I'm going with Austin Cindric in the Cup race and Austin Hill in Xfinity. And the people at DraftKings were nice enough to give us another banner bet. So keep your eyes on the DraftKings tab. We will have some sort of play, whether it be 2 guys, 3 guys to finish top 10, some sort of parlay, maybe a driver head-to-head parlay. But yeah, the folks at DraftKings have been great to us. We did hit, we did hit 2 of the 3 legs of our parlay. Unfortunately, Bubba Wallace got caught in the big one there, so he was the oddball out. But we were this close to hitting our DraftKings banner parlay, so keep your eyes out for another one this week. But I got the Austins this week in Atlanta.
Quigs, do you mind if I go, or do you want to jump in front of me also? You prick?
No, you go ahead. I got something weird this week.
I was thinking about Austin Hill too, just because the reason I didn't take him than just to watch him, the way he performed. But I'll keep that with you, Spider, because I think I'm also gonna. I don't know if I put him on my card. I might take Amarola too.
I was looking at that
in the Xfinity
like
race.
that.
I might take Amarola in the Xfinity race, so you can put that in the book then. I hit Byron at top Chevy. I'm going to take Bubba Wallace as top Toyota. I don't expect the Toyota to be in the winner's circle, but I think there's a chance that Bubba will be best in class in the Toyotas. I'm getting plus 500 on that. And then race winner, I'm going to take Joey Logano. I'm going to kind of stay with what you were saying, Spider, with the Penske cars. You'd mentioned Blaney, you'd mentioned Cindric. I'm taking the other guy. Joey was the fastest car on the track this weekend. And then we can argue on whether he was trying to, whether it was Ricky Stenhouse's fault or his fault. I know, we go back and forth with that. But I'm taking Logano this week. I'm going to take Logano and at only plus 900. And then for one longer shot, I thought Alex Bowman looked pretty good on that track also. So I'm going to grab Bowman the Showman at plus 2,500. So Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, and then Bubba Wallace to win. And then Bubba Wallace as the best Toyota. And then I'm going to throw a couple of shekels on Eric Amarola, who's back this season for 9 races in the Xfinity Series. I'm going to wait for you, Quigs, because it looks like what you're about to say is going to be ridiculous. Moonhead, do you have anything that you're looking at this week?
Yeah, I really like the Austin Hill deal out of Spider, but I know you said you don't expect the Toyota to win, but I like Reddick.
Okay.
I think he's going to win it. I've got a feeling.
You got Tyler Reddick. What can we expect? I mean, this weekend at Atlanta, Moonhead, is there anything in your perspective other than it's a great race to watch, it's a great place to race, that type of thing?
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of what we saw last year. I know the cars looked pretty sketchy at Daytona. It looked like handling mattered a little bit more than usual. So I think that was more Daytona getting old and wore out than a car thing. But I mean, I don't know. Atlanta's always, since the repave, its handling's mattered. So I think that the track's going to continue to get wore out, and I think that they'll probably be all over the place, and it'll be a sketchy race. But I expect pretty much what we saw last year, which I thought was one of, if not the best race of the year. So I'm really excited for it.
All right, Quigs, give us the dumbest bet that anyone's ever heard, but could make you a millionaire.
Yeah,
Just
I
joking,
mean,
I'm
you
sorry,
hit it.
but-
I didn't even let you know what it was, but that is how I would describe it too. I found out last week I can do my favorite type of bet, which is a round robin.
Ooh.
Look it up if you don't know it. It's basically a parlay where you're allowed to lose some bets. It makes a lot of mini parlays with all your picks.
Mhm.
But I've picked 10 drivers that I've either chosen top 10 or top 5. So I have, in this round robin, it's a round robin by threes. So it makes 3-team parlays of every combination of these guys. I have Ross Chastain top 10, Eric Jones top 10, Justin Haley top 10, Michael McDowell top 10, Corey LaJoie top 10, Ty Gibbs top 10, Christopher Bell top 10, Chase Elliott top 5, Austin Cindric top 5, Ryan Blaney top 5.
And
So
now,
I'm picking the entire, basically top 10, top 5, and I want as many of those guys in there as possible.
and then how many don't have to hit for you to win?
So if I get 3 of those, I will get paid something.
Something, okay.
It
And the
depends on
more you
their
get,
odds.
the better the odds. Okay.
But that will hit me one parlay. If I hit 4 of those guys, I'll hit, I think it's 4 parlays because it remakes every combination. It'll be interesting to see how it works week 1. There's high upside. There's a chance I hit none and I make nothing. But we'll see how. This is a test run of if I can do a round robin for NASCAR.
By the way, Kyle Busch, nobody's touching him this week. Kyle Busch is the 3rd shortest odds on the board right now behind Blaney and Logano. So it's the top 4 odds are the 3 Penske drivers with Kyle Busch ahead of Austin Cindric. So a lot of people are pretty high on Kyle Busch. None of us here are taking him, including Quigs on his 100-team parlay. So, I don't know. It's just about guarantees Kyle Busch is going to win. But that's it for us here at Rubbin is Racing. Thank you so much to our sponsors and our listeners. And again, we'll be there in Atlanta this week. So stop on by or do whatever and say hello. And we'll see you next week on Rubbin is Racing.
Peace.